Marcus had worked for 15 years to buy his house. Not just the mortgage, the dream. The corner lot on Maple Street with the two-car driveway, the mature oak trees, the wraparound porch his mother had always wanted to sit on. When he finally closed the deal at 38 years old, he'd stood in the driveway for an hour, just breathing it in. The Tesla came next. A reward, he told himself. A practical reward. He'd switched careers to renewable energy consulting, and the electric vehicle made sense on every level. Financial, environmental, personal. He installed the Level 2 charger himself, running power from the garage, grounding it properly, painting the weathered concrete beneath it a cheerful gray. He was proud of that charger. It represented something. Progress, intention, a life moving forward. That's where Karen had started using it. He didn't know her name was Karen for the first 2 weeks. She was just the woman in the beige minivan from the corner house, 3 properties down. Marcus first noticed the charger being used when his electricity bill spiked by 40% in March. He ran the numbers, checked his usage logs on the Tesla's app, and saw something impossible. The car was being charged at times he never used it, late at night, early morning, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. At first he assumed a mistake. A glitch in the system. He reset the charger, updated the software, checked connections. The charges continued. Security camera footage revealed the truth on a grainy spring night. A woman in a hot pink tracksuit, her hair in a high ponytail, practically jogging up his driveway with a phone flashlight, her eyes darting around like she was casing a jewelry store. She plugged her own cable into his charger, a cable that hung ready beside the Tesla, waiting for legitimate use, and went back inside her minivan, climbing into the driver's seat to read something on her phone. 40 minutes later, she unplugged, coiled the cable carefully, and drove away. Marcus watched the footage 4 times, waiting for a rational explanation to arrive. None did. He could have knocked on her door. He could have called the police that same night. Instead, and he would later question this decision 1,000 times, he decided to talk to her. Reasonable person to reasonable person. He waited until a Saturday morning when the weather was perfect, and his anger had cooled enough to function. He walked 3 houses down, rehearsing his words. "Hey, I think there might be some confusion about the charger in my driveway. I've noticed you using it at night. We should probably talk about that. Simple, direct, civil." Karen answered the door in a flowered loungewear set. A mimosa in hand, her expression shifting from friendly to guarded the moment she saw him. "Hi, I'm Marcus from— I know who you are," she said. Not unfriendly exactly, but territorial. "Okay, so I wanted to talk about something. The EV charger in my driveway, someone's been using it at night and? Her eyes narrowed. "And it's mine. Private property. I'm being charged for the electricity, so I was hoping we could work out some kind of arrangement or—" Karen laughed. An actual laugh. "You're charging me for electricity? Dude, that's literally the grid. It's public infrastructure." Marcus felt something shift inside him. Not quite anger, but the beginning of it. The tremor before the earthquake. "It's not public infrastructure," he said carefully. "It's my charger on my property powered by my electrical service. I pay for every kilowatt." "The electrical grid is a public utility," Karen said, as if explaining to a child. "We all pay into it. That charger sitting there is basically public property. There's literally nothing wrong with using it." "It's in my driveway." "My driveway is not public. And yet it's exposed to the public view. If you didn't want people using it, you should have put it in a garage." She was enjoying this now. The debate, the righteousness settling over her face like a familiar mask. Marcus took a breath. "I'd rather not go to the police about this. Can we talk about what that actually costs? I'll send you the bill and—" "Forget it." Karen stepped back, about to close the door, and maybe be less hostile. "You seemed really aggressive just now. I might have to call someone about the way you came at me." The door shut. Marcus stood on her porch for another minute, wind moving through the flowers in her hanging baskets, processing what had just happened. She turned it around, made him the villain. And she'd done it so smoothly, so practiced, that he found himself second-guessing his own reality. That night he reviewed the charging logs again. Since March, it was now May, Karen had stolen approximately 200 kilowatt hours. At his local rate of 13 cents per kilowatt hour, that was $156 in direct electricity costs. But there was also wear on the charger, the stress on his electrical service, not to mention the absolute principle of the thing. He texted her, "Just to be clear, I'm asking you to stop using my charger. If it happens again, I'll have to involve the police." She didn't respond. 3 nights later, she used it again. 2:47 a.m., and again on Friday at 4:15 a.m., and the next week, twice. Marcus felt something crystallize in him. Not rage anymore, something colder. Purpose. He started planning. For someone who'd built a career on solar panels and energy systems, Marcus understood infrastructure better than most people understood their own homes. He spent a Tuesday evening mapping his options, running calculations, researching local electrical codes. By Wednesday morning, he had a plan that was equal parts brilliant and risky. He couldn't just disconnect the charger. He needed evidence. Irrefutable, incontrovertible evidence that would hold up if this actually escalated to authorities. He needed her caught in the act, every kilowatt hour documented, every timestamp recorded. More than that, he needed her to admit what she was doing. The trap he devised was elegant. He'd install a secondary smart meter on the charger circuit, completely separate from his main home electrical service. This meter would measure only the power being drawn through his charger, creating a precise digital record. Then, this was the part that made it feel almost theatrical, he'd make the charger seem even more accessible, more inviting. He installed a small brass plaque on the driveway, visible from the street. Level 2 EV charger, $2 per hour or 15-day usage fee. Contact 555-0147 for payment options. He'd never receive a call, of course. The plaque was bait. It was a statement. And when she used it anyway, it would be the difference between accidental confusion and intentional theft. On the second Saturday of May, Marcus went further. He created a detailed website, just a quick WordPress site, nothing fancy, that he titled Maple Street EV Charging Station. He included photos of the charger, information about rates, a cute little counter showing how many public charges had happened. He set the counter to 0 and refreshed it. Then he did something that felt almost like theater. He sent Karen an invoice. "Dear Karen, I've calculated your usage from March through May based on my smart charger logs. Total charges, 47. Total consumption, 1,247 QAs. Total cost at current rates, $162.11. I've set up a payment plan if that's easier. Or, going forward, I'm happy to charge you 2 hours to use the charger legitimately. I take Venmo, PayPal, and credit card. I hope we can resolve this professionally. Best regards, Marcus." He knew what would happen. He could predict it like he could predict sun cycles and electrical loads. Karen called him the next morning at 8:37 a.m. He knew the exact time because his phone logged it, and he would later replay the conversation for the police. "What the fuck is this invoice?" she screamed without preamble. "Hi, Karen. Are you seriously billing me for using a charging station that's on public view? You think that's okay? It's on my private property, in my driveway, behind my house. You have to come onto my property to use it. It's visible from the street. The world can see it. Yes, and they can see my car and my roof and my landscaping. That doesn't mean they own them." He was calm now, so much calmer than her, and he heard the panic in her voice. She knew he was serious. "This is the most insane thing I've ever heard. You're literally trying to trap people into paying for public utilities. I'm not paying you a dime. Then I'm filing a complaint with the police and my electricity provider. Fuck off." The call ended. Marcus had recorded it all. He had the timestamp, the content, the clear admission that she was using the charger, and her refusal to acknowledge its status as private property. Legal advice from Google suggested he had a solid case, but he also knew that, legally speaking, this was a tiny claim, less than $200 in actual damages. That wasn't the point. He wanted her to understand. He wanted her to feel the specific humiliation of being caught, being documented, being held accountable in a way she'd clearly never experienced before. The next night, she didn't use the charger, nor the night after that. But on the night after that, Thursday, 3:33 a.m., she used it again. A long charge, 38 minutes. And this time, she left a note. You're a sad man with too much time on his hands. Using public utilities isn't theft. It's taking back from corporations. Grow up. She'd tucked it under his windshield wiper. Marcus photographed the note, time-stamped the charger usage log, and saved everything to a cloud folder. He titled the folder Evidence. He was building a narrative now, one frame at a time. On Friday, he installed an additional hidden camera with better resolution. This one caught not just the act of charging, but her face clearly. He watched the footage immediately. Karen, 2:47 a.m., earbuds in, checking her phone while the charger worked. Casual, entitled, certain of her right to be there. That Saturday morning, Marcus called his sister Denise, who was a contract attorney in Seattle. This is really small, Denise said after he'd explained. Legally, your damages are property theft, but we're talking a couple $100. Most police departments won't care. So what do I do? You could sue in small claims court. That would cost you money to file, or... Denise paused. Or you could escalate this in a way that doesn't involve the police or courts. What do you mean? I mean, make her life complicated. Public pressure, social media, show people what she did. Sometimes justice isn't legal justice. Marcus wasn't usually that kind of person, but he was beginning to understand the appeal of it. The Maple Street neighborhood had a Facebook group, the kind of community hub where people posted lost cats, recommended contractors, and complained about potholes. Marcus had never posted in it before, but he had 247 neighbors in the group. He created a post on a Tuesday morning. Heads up to anyone in the neighborhood. If you install an EV charger, be prepared for theft. Since March, a resident on my street has been using my private charger without permission, despite multiple requests to stop. I've documented 53 unauthorized charges totaling approximately 1,350 kWh, about $175 in stolen electricity and charger wear. I've tried to resolve this civilly without success. Police have been contacted. My advice, if you invest in a charger, install it somewhere that can be locked or monitored. And if you're considering borrowing public resources from your neighbors, remember, doorbell cameras are everywhere. He didn't name her. He wasn't stupid enough to do that, but he included photos of the charger, charts of the suspicious usage times, and a screenshot of the note she'd left. Within 3 hours, he had 47 comments. Most were supportive. That's literally theft. What a nightmare. People are crazy, but some questioned him. Why not just talk to her? He had. This seems like overkill? Maybe. You're being petty. Absolutely. Then Karen posted, "This is me he's talking about." And I want to be clear, that charger is exposed to public view. I didn't realize he was charging for it. I thought it was a public charging station. I've been trying to be good to the environment and use clean energy, and now I'm being publicly shamed for it. This is really toxic behavior. Maybe if he'd labeled the charger as private instead of leaving it out there like a trap, none of this would have happened. She'd gotten there first, had spun the narrative, had made herself the victim. Marcus watched the comments shift in real time as people began sympathizing with her perspective. Honestly, that does seem like a fair misunderstanding. He should have been clearer about it being private. Chargers usually have signs if they're public. Can't blame her for the confusion. She'd weaponized his own words against him. The narrative had flipped. Marcus typed a response, then deleted it. Then typed again, deleted again. Finally, he posted a single comment with links. A video of Karen unplugging her cable at 4 a.m., her face clearly visible. Another video from a different night showing her looking around furtively before plugging in. Then the note she'd left. Using public utilities isn't theft. The comment read, "Here's the documentation. Multiple incidents over 3 months. And she knew it wasn't public. She left this note on my windshield." The tone of the group shifted again. People who'd been sympathetic to Karen now felt foolish. But Karen kept posting, kept arguing, kept insisting that she'd genuinely misunderstood. She was good at this, at mixing just enough self-awareness. Okay, maybe I should have asked first, with enough victim mentality, but he didn't have to be so mean about it, to keep people off balance. Thursday night, Marcus heard a knock on his door. It was 9 p.m. He opened it to find Karen standing there in jeans and a blazer, her hair down, her face carefully arranged into an expression of contrition. "Hey," she said. "I wanted to apologize in person." For just a moment, Marcus felt hope. Maybe this was actually going to resolve. "I've been thinking about what you said," Karen continued. "And I think I was defensive because, honestly, I've been struggling financially. I'm going through a divorce. My ex is fighting me on support, and I'm trying to make it work on half of what I used to have. The charger, using it was wrong, I know. I was just trying to save money." Marcus softened. "Divorce, financial struggle. These were real things, human things. Karen, I get it. That's tough. But I'm also struggling. We could have worked something out if you'd just, I know. I'm sorry. What if I pay you back? Like 200? Would that make this right? The Facebook thing was so public. My job, my friends, they all saw that. People have been really mean to me." The trap wasn't in the charger anymore, Marcus realized. It was in this moment. She was offering him a choice: be the nice guy, accept an apology he didn't quite believe, move on. Or push further and confirm his suspicion that this was all manipulation. "I appreciate the apology," Marcus said slowly. "But the amount isn't really the point. It's the principle. The fact that Yeah, I know the principle. I violated your property. I get it." She was crying now, or performing crying. He couldn't tell the difference anymore. "I'm really sorry." She handed him 2 crisp $100 bills and a handwritten check for $15 post-dated to the 1st of the month. "The check is for next month," she said. "I get my support payment then." He took the money. He didn't know what else to do. Karen left, and Marcus stood in his doorway holding $215, feeling like he'd both won and lost somehow. But that night, at 2:47 a.m., she used the charger again. 45 minutes of charging. New Tesla calendar entry visible on the hidden camera footage, showing her destination, Whole Foods, shopping. She wasn't desperate anymore. She'd tested him and he'd failed. And now she understood exactly what she could get away with. Marcus sat in his living room watching the footage at 6 a.m., the sun just starting to crack the darkness, and felt something shift in his chest. Not anger anymore. Cold calculation. Certainty. He wasn't going to warn her again. Marcus spent the next week preparing like a detective setting a perimeter. He reviewed local police procedures, consulted again with Denise, and carefully documented everything with the kind of precision that would make a scientist proud. More importantly, he stopped being reactive. He became proactive. He created a detailed PDF document titled Unauthorized Electrical Service Usage, Property, Theft Report that included all charging timestamps from the security logs, 53 instances, calculated kilowatt hours consumed, associated costs, video documentation with date-time stamps, photographs of the note she'd left, screenshots of Facebook posts and comments, his recorded phone conversation with her photographs of the payment she'd made, which tacitly admitted she understood what she'd done, the post-dated check, which implied she knew she needed to repay something. Every element built a narrative of intentional, repeated theft that couldn't be explained away as misunderstanding. He then did something strategic. He prepared a different kind of bait. He called his electricity provider and inquired about setting up a payment arrangement for Karen. They told him it was impossible. He couldn't legally bill someone else through his service without them being on the account. So, he created his own billing system. Using a free invoicing website, he generated a formal invoice, Marcus Hart, Private EV Charging Service Invoice, the 1001. Customer, Karen Mitchell. 147 Maple Street Service, EV Charging. May-June 53rd charges are of 2-hour average, 212 hour service setup fee, documentation, installation security, $50 hours administrative processing fee, $20 total, due, 282 zur payment due within 30 days. After 30 days, unpaid invoices will be reported to small claims court and relevant authorities. He printed it on professional-looking cardstock and placed it in her mailbox on a Wednesday evening. The next morning, Karen called him screaming. "He recorded it!" You can't bill me. I don't have a contract with you. This is extortion. You're using my property. I'm providing you with a bill for services rendered. I didn't ask for your services. This is insane. Stop using the charger and the bills stop. She hung up. 48 hours later, she used the charger again. 3:15 a.m., a 52-minute charge. Clear footage. Marcus then made the decision that would change everything. He went to the police. He walked into the non-emergency line of the precinct on a Friday morning with his PDF documentation, the video footage on a USB drive, and his calm demeanor firmly in place. He spoke to Officer Chen, a woman in her 50s with a patient expression and the kind of world weariness that comes from 15 years of small disputes. She's stealing electricity, Marcus explained, walking her through the timeline, the refusals, the repeated incidents. Officer Chen reviewed the materials carefully. This is documented theft for sure, she said. But honestly, sir, it's pretty low level. Usually we ask people to handle this civilly first or through small claims court. I've tried civilly. She refuses to acknowledge that it's wrong. And you're out, what, $250 in actual damages? About $280 now, including the charger wear and my time documenting this. Officer Chen sighed. I can file a report. I can talk to her if you want. But unless she admits to it or you're willing to prosecute in small claims, this is going to be hard to move forward on. Then file a report. And I want the record to show that I've attempted resolution and she's refused. Officer Chen did. She filed a report, documented it, and on Saturday afternoon, she drove up to Karen's house. Marcus watched from his porch as Karen answered the door. Officer Chen spoke to her for about 10 minutes. And then the officer returned to her car. She stopped at Marcus's house on the way out. I've informed her that using your charger without consent is theft. And if it continues, there will be further action, Officer Chen said. I've also told her that you'll be filing in small claims court. That usually gets people to pay up more than the police report does. Karen didn't use the charger again all weekend. Marcus checked the logs obsessively, watching for the telltale power draw that would indicate the cable plugged in. Nothing. But at 1:47 a.m. on Monday, he was awake. He was always checking. The charger activated. 58 minutes. Peak consumption. And then the shutdown. The cable being unplugged. The silent confirmation that she was escalating this in her own way. Marcus called Officer Chen back. She used it again, he said. Last night, 1:47 to 2:45 a.m., I have video documentation. Charge number 58. There was a pause. He could almost hear Officer Chen reconsidering her weekend. I'll file an additional report, she said. And I'll let her know that if it happens again, we'll be pressing charges for persistent theft. The next conversation Marcus had with his sister was different. She's not going to stop, Denise said. People like this don't stop because police ask nicely. She's already decided that the consequences are worth it. So what do I do? You escalate until the consequence is worse than the action. Karen used the charger 3 more times over the next week, each incident documented, each one more brazen than the last. On the final incident, Thursday, 4:02 a.m., a 55-minute charge, Marcus heard something new in the footage. Music. She was sitting in her minivan, music playing, charging her car like she was at a legitimate public station. Not hurrying, not being furtive anymore, she'd decided she wasn't going to stop, and she'd decided there was nothing he could do about it. Marcus then made his move. He filed in small claims court on Friday morning. The filing fee was $85. He included his PDF documentation, all video evidence, the photographs, the invoice, everything. He requested damages of $350, the actual cost plus the court filing fee, plus damages for breach of property. He also, simultaneously, did something he'd been hesitant about. He created a detailed post on the neighborhood social media group with a headline that read, Update, filing theft charges against Karen Mitchell, 147 Maple Street, Small Claims Court, case. Number. The post included a timeline, the documentation, and a statement. I'm sharing this publicly because repeated civil requests and police intervention have not resolved this matter. If anyone else has had similar issues with unauthorized property use in the neighborhood, Please contact me. There may be a pattern. The post hit different this time. This wasn't a complaint. This was legal action. This was documentation of a pattern. Within an hour, someone else commented, "She's been using my water hose to fill her pool without asking. Thought I was crazy. Glad to see I'm not the only one." Then another. "She asked me if she could borrow tools and returned them damaged. When I asked her to pay for it, she claimed I was being hostile. She does this to everyone." A picture was emerging. Karen wasn't a person in financial hardship making one mistake. Karen was a person with a pattern of taking what she wanted and reframing it as everyone else's problem when caught. Facebook comments accumulated. Some people still defended her, but the majority shifted toward incredulity. One neighbor, a woman named Patricia, commented, "This is exactly what I warned about at the last HOA meeting. We need actual community standards." Karen deleted her Facebook account on Sunday, but the court summons arrived at her house on Tuesday. Marcus watched from his window as she received it, saw her read the paperwork, watched her face cycle through confusion, anger, and finally, something like fear. She didn't use the charger that night, nor the next night, but at 3:22 a.m. on Thursday, 5 days before the small claims hearing, she used it one final time. A brief charge, 23 minutes, like she was saying goodbye. The small claims court hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday at 10 a.m. Marcus arrived early, dressed in a blazer and dress pants, his documentation organized in a folder. Karen showed up at 9:47 a.m., wearing what appeared to be her serious outfit. A blazer matching his, dress pants, her hair pulled back severely. She'd brought a folder, too, and she looked genuinely angry. The righteousness of the wrongly accused firing her up. Judge Patricia Morrison reviewed both cases, heard Marcus's evidence, watched 30 seconds of the video footage, and asked Karen a simple question. "Did you use this charger without permission?" Karen pivoted immediately. "The charger was visible from the public right-of-way. I believed it was a public charging station. I didn't receive adequate notice that it was private property." "You received multiple notices," Marcus interjected. "There was no official signage." "I provided signage. I provided an invoice. I provided a notice on—" Judge Morrison raised a hand. "Let me ask you something, Ms. Mitchell. When you were using this charger at 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., did you believe it belonged to the homeowner?" I thought it was just available." "Did the homeowner ever tell you it wasn't available?" "He tried to, but I didn't think—" "Did you pay for it?" "No, but—" Judge Morrison looked at Marcus. "The evidence is clear. This is theft of services. Small amount, but clear." She looked back at Karen. "Ms. Mitchell, you will pay Mr. Hart $350 in damages plus $25 in court costs, total $375, payable within 30 days. Failure to pay will result in additional penalties and a judgment against you." She banged her gavel. It took 3 seconds. $42 per instance of theft. Not much in raw numbers, but everything in terms of admission. Karen had been found liable. Found guilty of theft, essentially, in a court of law. There would be a record. It would show up if anyone ever checked her background. Karen's face went white, then red. "This is bullshit," she said, loud enough that everyone in the waiting area heard it. "Don't make this worse," Judge Morrison said coolly. Karen stormed out, but not before catching Marcus's eye. He saw something there he'd been hoping to see. The understanding that her actions had real consequences. That she couldn't just take what she wanted and reframe it. That someone had been patient, thorough, and ultimately victorious. He'd won. Karen paid the $375 on day 29 by check, delivered by courier service, which felt very much like her making sure she didn't have to see Marcus in person. The check cleared. He donated the money to a local environmental nonprofit. She never used the charger again. In fact, she moved 3 months later. Marcus watched the moving trucks arrive, watched her minivan pull away for the last time, and felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, but exhaustion. The charger remained, installed, and ready. He'd won his case, vindicated his property rights, proven that he wasn't the unreasonable one. But what had it cost him? Hours of documentation, a small claims court filing, the deterioration of neighborhood harmony. Karen had sold her house for less than market value. which the neighborhood gossip attributed to the controversy, though really, it was the real estate market and the fact that she wanted out. 3 weeks after she left, an older couple bought her house. David and Susan, both in their 60s, kind-eyed people who started a tomato garden in the backyard. On their second day, David approached Marcus while he was watering his lawn. "I wanted to thank you," David said. "For what?" "For handling the last tenant. Susan and I were worried about living next to drama, but your Facebook posts were actually kind of reassuring. You documented everything. You didn't lose your cool." That's exactly the kind of neighborhood we wanted to move into. Marcus felt something ease in his chest that he didn't know he'd been holding tight. "I'm just glad it's resolved," he said. "The charger setup is nice," David added. "We're thinking about getting an EV in a few years. Maybe by then you'll have worked out all the kinks." David walked back to his house, and Marcus stood there in the evening light, realizing that winning the legal battle had somehow also won him something else, a neighbor who respected boundaries and principle. A guy who understood that sometimes you have to hold the line. He looked at the charger, that simple piece of equipment that had caused so much trouble, and saw it differently now. Not as a flashpoint, but as a boundary marker, an indicator of what belonged to him and what didn't. 3 months later, a video went viral on social media. It was titled, "How I Trapped My Neighbor Stealing from My EV Charger." It had been posted by someone named Tyler Chen, no relation to Officer Chen, and it was Marcus's story, told through the security footage, the invoice, the small claims court paperwork, everything edited together like a mini documentary. It had 3.2 million views. In the comments, people took sides. Some praised Marcus for his patience and documentation. Others criticized him for being overly litigious and petty. Someone discovered that Karen had somehow built a social media following after the video went viral, positioning herself as a victim of corporate attitudes toward shared resources. She'd turned it into a brand. Of course she had. But Marcus's video had other effects too. It inspired dozens of people to install security cameras on their chargers, to document theft, to take action. It made people think about property rights and communal responsibility. It sparked a genuine conversation about entitlement and accountability. His sister Denise called him one evening. "You're famous," she said. "I'm infamous. Either way, you made your point. Did I?" Marcus looked at the charging cable hanging on his garage wall, ready for legitimate use. "I don't even know anymore what the point was. I just wanted her to understand that what she was doing was wrong. And she does now. The whole world does, apparently." After the video went viral, Marcus received 3 emails from people in similar situations asking for advice. He helped them document their own cases. 2 of those cases resulted in police reports. One resulted in small claims court action where the defendant actually paid. The charger remained in his driveway, working perfectly, used only by Marcus and the occasional friend with an EV who asked permission first. He'd added a clear sign, "Private property, authorized use only," in red lettering visible from the street. But the incident had changed him. He was more cautious now, more willing to engage with documentation and evidence, less trusting of his neighbor's good faith. Some nights he reviewed the charger logs obsessively, watching for unusual power draws that would indicate a breach. That hypervigilance was its own kind of theft, he realized. It stole his peace. On a Saturday morning, 6 months after the court case, an email arrived in his inbox from a law firm. Karen was suing him for defamation, claiming that his posts on social media and the viral video had damaged her reputation, cost her employment opportunities, and caused her emotional distress. Marcus forwarded it to Denise without comment. "This will probably go nowhere," Denise texted back. "Everything you posted was factually accurate and publicly available court records. But it'll cost you money and legal fees to defend." He settled with her out of court for $1,200 to make it go away. He never saw Karen again, but he saw evidence of her constantly. Posts about environmental justice, discussions of how the wealthy weaponize the legal system against the poor, even a podcast appearance where she discussed being publicly shamed for trying to help the environment. She'd won in a different way. She'd turned her defeat into a narrative, her loss into a lesson. her theft into a cautionary tale about something else entirely. Sometimes Marcus wondered if he'd actually trapped her, or if she'd set a trap for him all along. The kind of trap where you make one decision, then another, and suddenly you're the villain of your own story, defending your property so vigorously that it eats the property itself. The Charger still worked perfectly. It still sat in his driveway, waiting for legitimate use. But it meant something different now. It wasn't progress or intention anymore. It was a boundary line, and boundary lines, he'd learned, were the places where people fought. He kept the Charger anyway. He kept maintaining it, kept it ready, but he'd stopped feeling proud of it. Some victories, Marcus realized, came with a cost you couldn't calculate in dollars. Some ways of winning left you wondering if you'd actually lost something more valuable in the process. The Charger hummed quietly in the spring sun, and Marcus moved forward with his life, carrying the lesson forward into the next dispute, the next boundary, the next time someone tested whether they could take what didn't belong to them. He knew now that he would stop them, and he knew now that stopping them would cost him something too. The price of principle, it turned out, was higher than the price of electricity, but he would pay it again. He would draw the line again, because that's what principle meant. You didn't get to choose the cost. You only chose whether to uphold it.